The hidden blade from Assassin's Creed deserves more credit from Skallagrim. Now, more of a pop culture thing. There's been many people that I've talked to all throughout my life that have loved Assassin's Creed, have loved the hidden blade, but really it kind of strikes them as just being not necessarily sturdy, or there being mechanical complications and ways to do it potentially that are a roundabout method. I'm very curious with someone of Skallagrim's caliber, with someone of their experience, what their take on it is. Is it going to have stability issues? Is it going to have structural integrity issues? Is it going to be viable? I'm very interested in this, so let's dive right in. The intro goes hard. I love it. I was half expecting Ganado. I'd be very curious if these actually function.
Some of you may remember the video I made about the hidden blade from the Assassin's Creed series a couple of years ago.
That's the one. Just
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. So now I have something that allows me to make better points about it. Because now I can extend my point. Back then,
I'm very curious on the mechanism on this. If this is in fact a reasonable thing, if this is in fact structurally sound, integrally fine, be very interested on how that works and how efficient that would be. Efficient in just in a like usage. I don't think you're gonna be able to parry blades like longswords with it, but it's an interesting thought experiment.
I was rather critical of it, saying things like, why bother with a hidden blade when you can just hide a dagger, which is more effective?
Cool. So to that, one cool factor, because I mean, how many times have you seen people reverse moonguard with a sword, right? Where you're holding a sword, not like if you hold your hand out, right? You know how the sword usually goes, where it's pointed up. You're holding it pointed down. How many people have you seen reverse gripping blades? How many people have you seen doing just absolutely weird things that, like, I don't know if that works, right? Hidden blade, it also sends a message, right? Anyone realistically can cloak and dagger, right? There's a difference between having cloak and dagger, right, than a hidden blade and really not leaving a mark, so to speak, and it's sending a specific kind of message, is how I would counter.
Let's dive into it, or shall we say, take a stab at it. Of course, hypothetically speculating about something is not as good as hypothetically speculating about something you have on hand, or in this case, on wrist.
Yeah.
This is made by Rawest Creations, whom I reached out to asking if I could borrow one of these for a video. And what he ended up doing was not only send me one, but two, plus a decorative stand, and then tell me to keep them all. Which is...
These look very affordable, actually. I might have to reach out to this person for tax reasons.
Freaking awesome. These are really cool, and I'm happy to keep them. So this video is not sponsored as such, but it ended up with a surprise gift. Not that it influences what I'm about to say in any way, but hey. All right, so when it comes to the question of why bother, I think the game actually does a pretty good job of answering that. And no, I don't mean the rule of cool.
Yeah.
It does that, of course.
It does it.
But particularly this compilation of stealth kills with the hidden blade shows it quite well. If the assassin could just walk past someone and casually briefly touch them and they collapse, that's pretty difficult to spot, especially in a crowd if you...
In comparison to somebody just in broad daylight, flourishing a cloak and brandishing a dagger and trying to run you through, right? Because in one of those... It's a very good point.
If the assassin could just stealth kills with...
Give me a second, I need to find it. Right? You're just... go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. You're just like, oh, yeah, you're just covering your mouth. Don't sneeze, right? When, you have a hidden blade in his neck.
Shows it quite well. If the assassin could just...
Like, oh, excuse me, good sir. I just need to get by you when, it's right in his kidney.
Walk past someone and casually, briefly...
Oh, hey, right over there. Sorry, you dropped that. And neck, right?
Touch them, and they collapse. That's pretty difficult to spot, especially in a crowd, if you aren't already observing this particular guy, which you might because he's not particularly inconspicuously dressed. That works pretty well, because this way you have it available, at a moment's notice. You don't even need to reach for your belt or your forearm or anything. You only need one hand.
Conservation and movement. We talk about this. I talked about this in the last week. We talk about this all the time, right? Your tempo to get that blade into their gut is less than their tempo to even react to you in certain situations. You know, oh, good, so sorry, I'm just tapping your shoulder, just coming right by you, right? Suddenly you have a blade in them, right? It's very fast in terms of tempo if you get it off. But yes, if the parts go out, yes, you are correct, chat. If the parts go out, if the mechanics start getting a little wonky, it could very well be useless.
And it's as quickly as it's out, it's back in again. And of course, also, you can hold on to things. Right now, all I have is a stick.
Oh, that's a good stick.
It'll do. So
that's a good stick, chat. It's a really good stick.
I can manipulate other objects. I can even use another weapon. And I can even still deploy this while I'm holding onto the other weapon to an extent. The problem, of course, is always you have to move the hand out of the way. And here's a case that I overstated, even though it was done as a joke in the original video. After a hard day of assassination work, relieving yourself, and suddenly the danger to yourself. You could end up hurting yourself with this if it comes out at a time where you don't want it to, right? Wrong, really, depending.
It depends on the integrity, I would assume.
On how it's made, and I do think this is the best option. Let me just take off the glove here to show you. So there is a string connected to a ring. And if I pull this far enough, it comes out. So depending on how long you make that string, it takes more or less to activate it.
Right.
If I deliberately try to impale my own fingers, I can't. Because not only do I have to pull my wrist back, I also have to pull my finger.
Which is actually a really good. That's actually quite brilliant now that I'm looking at that. That's actually quite brilliant. It's a built-in safety.
I can still use my wrist normally and, support myself in case of an assassin. He can pull himself up on a ledge, things of that nature. But it takes a little bit more to get it out. And you can really adjust it as far as you want. Now, if I pull it up a little bit, for example, I'm going to have to extend
pull it further.
My finger more. So it's up to the user how safe it is exactly. There are some extremely impressive builds out there, like this pneumatic design, which has plenty of power, but requires modern technology, including some electronics, and the whole system needs to be worn in a backpack. There are
that's a little less concealable. The one that Skallagrim's currently using is very period, if that makes sense. You might not have the same power behind it. But I mean, obviously like in a historical setting, like let's just say we're doing period setting, right? 1400s to 1600s, that kind of thing, right? What's to stop you from just, I don't know, putting nightshade on that blade? What's to stop you from, putting any number of toxic substances on that blade as well? Yes, it's gonna massively F up that blade, right? But I mean, depending if you're just trying to do a job and run, right? I mean, it just depends. Then again, period-wise, metal is also pretty expensive. So the ring and string trick actually does, I feel, fit a lot better in a period setting.
Also simpler spring-powered versions, which are easier to wear and conceal.
Yeah.
This, by the way, is irresistible.
It really is. That looks
great.
Gotta
mess with it. Keep doing it. Anyway, and we've also got this right here. This is Ivor's version of the Hidden Blade. Even though Assassin's Creed Valhalla makes me cringe with just how much they butchered the historical setting.
I have had people absolutely rant about this game. So like, oh man, that is a topic. I love hearing people rant about the historical inaccuracies.
His Hidden Blade design is actually quite nice. But we'll get to that in a moment because there are some particular points, observations.
You are correct, Eris, and that has actually been a point brought up before in regards to a hollow blade potentially working better. There's also been people that I've spoken. Kip has met some interesting people, let's put it that way, where people have said that a hollow instrument that you could hidden blade a hollow instrument and it puffs air, like that's the whole intent, is to puff air into that where it inserts, right? Could do a lot of damage. And yeah, no, like that would track as well, yeah.
About this, I really need to find more synonyms for making points when I talk about pointy objects. Otherwise, there will be all kinds of poignant puns.
So many points.
Engage the safety here. You can hear the click.
Oh, it's even got a manual safety. That's really cool.
It doesn't come out anymore.
I'm cool with that.
Can be useful, of course. So this is already the best solution for it that I can think of. This string and the ring can be concealed under a glove, no problem. So this works perfectly well. The lock would have to be strong enough to withstand stabbing with it, obviously. That was another one of the points that I made, that it wouldn't be as powerful in the thrust as a dagger is. And
you might not necessarily need power depending on the situation, right? I mean, yeah, trying to maybe break through someone's cranium, right? Theoretically, probably not the best. But even we look at this is not me arguing with him, this is kind of backing up his points and providing commentary, right? And like, you know, something like near your trachea, right? You know, where your the arteries, right, on the sides of your neck are, right? Yeah, gonna be pretty easy. If you know where to slip between a rib, right? Perfectly fine. Like we see all the time, right? We've seen with, as far as I'm aware, Kentucky Ballistics. We've seen with Grand Thumb. We've seen with a number of other Deadliest Warrior, right? Many people using those gel torsos, right? How easy it is to lacerate and puncture these gel torsos, right? So, I mean, as long as your blade is sharp, right? And really, depending on how effectively, if a blade breaks, if a blade shatters, etc., right? You know, you could get replacement blades, harder in a period setting because metal can be expensive, right? It's why knights, right, in medieval Europe, right, knights having armor were a symbol of status. You know, you don't really see anyone under a certain rank having full metal, because metal armor was expensive, which is very fascinating that metal armor got phased out prior to World War I, because just the world was just not... Firearms changed warfare. We were able to just sling ranged implements way harder and faster than ever before. But yeah, no, it's depending on where you're hitting, depending on the skill, and even then you could make an argument where only the most skilled of practitioners get access to this implement because of a higher skill ceiling, because of the more moving parts, right? Because how much finesse you would have to have, you know, not to hit a rib or not to just full on try and go through someone's sternum, right? You know, you could also have this as a symbol of status, which also makes it easier to do certain people's jobs. So, I mean, there's a lot of commentary that I can offer on the subject.
And that's still true. Like if you think about holding a dagger, you can really wrap your fingers around, you can put the thumb at the end and you can really drive your entire body weight down with it, particularly in a hammer grip. Here, not as much, because really all that...
That's also not to say that this can be your only implement. I used to know people, and thankfully I don't know them anymore. I used to know people, and one of their things was how many knives could they smuggle places. I think one of their counts was 27. Obviously, they didn't have any ill intent. I have to state that for obvious reasons, right? It was a challenge of how many of this thing can I go with? How many of this can I bring? And allegedly, their count was up to 27 knives on them at a given time. Which, like, that's one of those things that for, like, YouTube TS and advertising purposes, I can't encourage. But I definitely still know people that would be like, I could fit 30 pretty easy. And these are the people that I just consistently come across, and I kind of low-key love it.
That's holding it in place are the straps. So if these give, and you can see there is a little bit of movement here.
Yeah.
So there's only the friction from the straps preventing the blade from getting pushed back and thereby being less effective. Is there a problem? I don't actually think so anymore. Why? Because what kind of target would an assassin engage with this? The neck or other soft targets?
Yeah.
Unless the assassin hits the spine of the victim, it's not really going to be a problem. There's also this design which intelligently combines the benefits of the hidden blade with the power of a conventional ice pick grip. You remember the original hidden blade from the first Assassin's Creed, where
the first Assassin's Creed got done dirty. I've been waiting, God, a decade plus for this to get a remake or a remaster, and it never comes. God, my boy Altair got done dirty.
The guy had his ring finger removed. This looks cool and all, but it really serves no practical function. So for one, I don't like the idea of letting the blade slide past those other two fingers, because you could injure the other two fingers. And also, with the way this is activated, why?
Yeah.
All the fingers are out of the way.
This also comes across as more natural, right? So if we look at how his arm is opened, right? Wouldn't that look like he's just trying to grip someone's shoulder? Wouldn't that look like he's just trying to be like, hey, don't breathe this weird smoke in, bro, right? Trying to help someone out, trying not to, breathe in something potentially harmful around him. How this looks more natural when engaging with another person.
Way. And as mentioned earlier, I can't really think of another way to make this work effectively. So this is just what we've got. So
it works.
The fingers aren't in the way no matter what. And also you would limit the penetration.
Okay, so here's what I got. Here's what I got, because as I always say, if I need to ask someone something or to fix something or how to get something from point A to point B and maybe to C, I will always ask the rednecks, the engineers, and the Marine Corps. You three groups, how would you make this work? Yes, in this thought experiment, you are allowed to replace the blade with a boomstick. Yes, I will allow that for this thought experiment. Obviously, please keep it YouTube appropriate. Obviously, wink, wink. But how would you three groups go about this? I'm very curious.
Depth this way. So imagine
how much alcohol would be required?
I don't have my ring finger, right, and it just comes out here. So this is as much as I've got to work with here.
Yeah.
There's still some more blade there. So what happens when I do this? I've got more blade to work with.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
compare this. That's how much we got.
The main point of this hidden blade is that it's an assassin's blade. It is not meant for open combat. It's made to quickly and quietly kill the target while not being easy spot while doing it. That specifically, Draconic Blade 1, you win the comment section. That is exactly the point of the hidden blade. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, because Assassin's Creed itself is also guilty of this, where suddenly the hidden blade is being used to parry entire longsword strikes, or it's being used to do other things that realistically it's not meant to do. If you're looking for a quick, from a video game standpoint, obviously, looking for a quick, down and dirty, this is going to be an efficient way to look natural, to hit and run, to do the job as quick and stealthily as possible. The hidden blade is going to be what you're going to want to do.
And now it goes down to about here at least, depending on the exact angle. So this is just better in every way. Complexity is a drawback, because that means something can fail.
Yes.
A traditional dagger is just a blade with a...
We actually run into this with revolvers versus magazine-fed firearms. And man, I feel like I can get some weird comments on this one. So, and this was a conversation I had with my dad a long, long time ago in regards to the integrity of certain platforms, right? How revolvers technically have a better integrity because they're not magazine fed, the magazine being spring fed, right? It's going to use the spring to feed the rounds into the chamber, right? There is technically more that can go wrong than with a revolver, which is, for all intents and purposes that I understand, you got your cylinder, you throw your cylinder in, you cock back your hammer hammer goes forward, firing pin goes forward from there, right? Whereas with a magazine fed firearm, you got your rounds that go into your magazine. It's going to compress the spring. The spring, as rounds leave that magazine, is going to decompress, and then that's going to feed it into the chamber, which then your firing pin's going to go back. Well, I guess depending on the platform, right? Like AR's charging handle, right? Charging handle goes back. Trying to remember the internal anatomy. It's been way too long. The bolt carrier group's messing with me. Alas, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? More moving parts means more potential points of failure. Not necessarily that one is inherently better than the other. It's just introducing another point of failure in that pipeline. And that's when you get into, if you're going to store loaded magazines, one under, right? So if you have a 30 round magazine, right, and store it at 29, you don't have to necessarily have it empty, from my understanding. You just store it at 29, and then when you're ready, put the 30th in. That way you're not necessarily stressing out the springs needlessly.
Handle. How can it fail? The same way the blade can fail.
Yeah.
Like the tip can bend or break or whatever. If you have shoddy steel, anything like that, it can dull, whatever.
Yeah.
That can happen with this too. And the internal mechanism can fail.
Yeah.
This mechanism can fail. The string can rip. There's a number of things that can happen. However, it's not that big of a deal because this is not a fighting weapon in this form. we'll get back to that in a moment.
It's not supposed to be a fighting weapon. If you understand how an underbarrel shotgun works, you could apply the same principles of the hidden blade. It being compact would be iffy, but in theory, as long as you can figure out a firing mechanism, you would have a painful, all but effective explosive alternative. Yeah, and that's the thing. There's many ways to go about this. I would view the hidden blade as a status symbol more than anything, right? It's kind of like how in the movies, in really like campy action movies and stuff, you'll have your Spec Ops dark black team, right, doing whatever, and they all have this weird proprietary firearm or weird proprietary equipment that no other unit or no other platoon or even service has, right? You know, you could save this for, you know, effectively the Army Rangers of whatever Assassin's Guild you're doing, right? This is a symbol of prestige. You have to upkeep this. You have to make sure this is in tip-top working order. You have to understand the mechanisms, but in mastering that and properly upkeeping it, you have a much higher ability to enact certain jobs and certain works, right? So, for example, in Assassin's Creed Unity, right, where you have to go into the... it wasn't the courthouse. It was the giant mansion where the picture quest was, right? The portraits. Like, if you need to go infiltrate a large party like that, right? I mean, which is going to be easily more noticeable by guards at the front, right? Are you going to have your random with, you know, a dagger belted at their hip or dagger belted to their thigh, right? Is that going to be more noticeable than a seemingly innocuous gauntlet, right? You know, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to upkeep this, and you have to realize that, yes, this has the higher potential to do the job, as you will, in games, right? But the person has to know how to upkeep it and how to properly repair it, how to maintain it, right? And I mean, you see that just anywhere, right? I mean, you see a number of firearms owners do that exact same thing.
This is an assassination tool. So the same logic applies as does to self-defense knives. They don't need to be as durable as a bushcraft knife, for example, because you're not going to use it as much. You know, hopefully not at all. In fact, an assassin would use this more often than somebody would use a knife for self-defense. But either way, not all that much. And another thing that I've pointed out, you know, if blood from the blade runs down to the mechanism, could gum things up. You know, but coagulated blood in there, that's not a good thing.
Once again, comes down to maintenance, right? Properly cleaning, properly taking apart, disassembling, reconstructing it, making sure everything's in working order. Damn, I almost wonder what this sounds like. Number of firearms enthusiasts being just like, yeah, I do this all the time with this platform or this model. It's like, yeah, you do.
Thing that could make the mechanism fail. Okay, but if he only uses it once or twice or three times or whatever, and then, you know, takes it apart and cleans it and whatever, maintains it, not a problem, really.
I'm going to take that W. I literally could have let him explain this, but I'm going to take that W.
So why did I leave this one for later? Well, for the inside carry, this has a serious problem. As you can see,
it's the blade
point is sticking
out. Yeah.
So if I strap this to my wrist, you can see the problem. I'm not gonna have fun here. I might poke my wrist or my palm or whatever. I would have to wear this so low that I'm limiting.
You're limiting the amount of blade.
How much blade I can work.
So if it's up here, right, you have that much blade to work with. If it's down here, suddenly you're limited to like this much of the blade. Man. Not using the blade that you're given is kind of a detriment, isn't it?
I mean, there's still plenty. However, if you turn it into something else and actually carry it or wear it on
the top,
the outside rather than the inside,
this is guard door claws at that
point. Now
point.
It becomes a different beast. Yeah. So while this is an assassin's weapon, I would call this a fighter's weapon.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I said this before double checking the design in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and this is exactly the way it is. So this,
I mean, it works. That makes a lot more sense. That's efficient.
Despite slaughtering history in this one, I've got to give him credit for this design choice. That's pretty good. If I strap it this way and actually hold on to this strap, this eliminates one of the weaknesses of that design, namely, it's more stable.
Suddenly you're using your arm and the movement that it offers to bolster the impact of this, where this is going to be a sleight of hand, right? Sleight of hand whoops in your kidney, right? This is going to be, I'm a punch a mother trucker. Oh, I'm also in your jugular, by the way. That I actually like. But also, I'm an Unga Bunga strength fighter, so I mean, I'm absolutely biased in this one.
Now I've actually got something to hold on to. This doesn't have to be a flexible strap. This can also be a bar of some kind. So now I'm more directly connected to this, not just with straps, but with something solid. So I can really drive this in. Like a lot of arm claws and blades and things of that nature. So this could be armored, so you're actually able to...
So you know what you could do, as I'm a huge fan of the, actually, that opens up into the line of play, which we'll get to in a second. Saber from Fate, how she has the plates as like those kendo gauntlets, right? Or another kendo gauntlets with plates on them. Right. I'm really wanting a set of those, actually. You could have Saber from Fate plates along your arm, and suddenly your arm is just this armored behemoth. Now, this actually opens up another line of play. You know, I haven't seen Karate Kid, but I'm aware of the wash on, wash off, you know, that segment of the movies, right? Where, oh, look, someone's trying to come at you. Whoop, I'm going to use my arm to just wipe them out of the way. Interesting, isn't it? Just... Funnily enough, despite never actually seeing Karate Kid and having a very basic understanding of how that scene went, I had somebody who I used to know who watched Skallagrim for a number of years be like, Kip, like, how do you do this movement? And I'm just like, just rotate your arm at a 90 degree, and I was able to show him just fine. Like, I don't know if that's me just, like, understanding combat on a more innate level than other people, or... I don't know, just maybe just mechanics bamboozling people. Who knows? Just I'll take that as a Kip W though. But yeah, you know, so you're in a Leon Krauser knife fist fight, right? Skallagrim can suddenly just go whoops, and your blade's over there, and he can just all he has to do is just drop down and thrust in, right?
Fend with that, you know, just block an opponent's sword or whatever other weapon, and
that looks really cool though.
Use this
one of those are really.
Now, would you want a retractable version in that case? Not really.
I'm going to be honest. I would just take a fixed version, even if I just had the plates and the mechanism. I would absolutely. How do I say? And isn't it nya? Like it's like, oh god, mañana, right? With the tilde over the end. Off topic. Moving on. I mean, I would just take a fixed one. You know, just affix it to a point, lock it in, and then just fight with that.
Because concealment is not a factor here. Here you really want something that's reliable and damage resistant that you can actually use for defense.
Yeah.
So this is arguably not as purposeful,
yeah,
but it is
flexibility.
Cool. I mean, you can't argue with that, right? I couldn't blame a fantasy hero for wanting this as opposed to just a fixed blade.
I like your funny little toy strength fighter. It would be a shame if someone were to come down right on it with a claymore.
Attached to the arms. Twice the edginess. Yeah. Twice the stabbiness, too. Yeah, so these are a lot of fun.
Stab squared.
I hope you found this video fun, too. That's the idea, after all. Thanks for watching, and beware of shady hooded figures.
That's the one. You do not recognize the figures in the dog park. There are no hooded figures in the dog park. Like maybe 10% of you are going to understand what I'm actually talking about. Actually, that brings up while I'm finishing this video, that brings up a very interesting weapon from history, specifically Italian history. So, of course, it's the Italians, right? Because the Italians love making weird things. This was a very good video, though. I absolutely love this, and we'll have to get to the reverse grip at some point. Now, Skallagrim's a very good individual. He's been on YouTube for a number of years. It really surprises me that not more people are watching his videos, because he really puts out some amazing work. And I want to do what I can to, one, if you've never seen Skallagrim, now you have seen Skallagrim. Two, maybe this is your new favorite sword tuber, right? Maybe this is your new favorite person that actually talks about cool stuff in a way that makes sense, and you like their personality, right? You could absolutely find someone that you love in this. So absolutely, if you haven't, please go check out Skallagrim. I did reach out to him and I did ask if reaction content was okay. He said, yeah, as long as you're adding context, you know, Skallagrim, I'm more than happy to. If you want to review this, if you're trying to see if I'm adding enough commentary, please, as always, I'm more than happy to. You know, feedback, I'm more than happy to reception. I just want to make sure I'm doing so in a positive and constructive fashion. in regard to weird Italian weapons, which are kind of adjacent to the finale of that video, welcome to the lantern shield, which if you see one of these, it most likely has a body count because of how they were used. It's a very interesting design where it's designed to hold a lantern. It's also designed to be a sword and a shield at the same time. So, yeah. Yeah, the lantern shield is now a thing that you know about. And it is it's a piece of work. But alas, let me know if you like these combat segments. Let me know if you like these funny sword segments. I do SCA stuff, and they have offered, hey, Kip, do you want us to like help you with any video stuff? They've offered, so if people actually want to see some stuff, maybe I can get some stuff done. But alas, let me know all that fun stuff in the comment section, please. Obviously, keep it civil, YouTube appropriate, etc. And I'll see you in the next one.